Boom, boom. How's it going? How's it going? Yay! It is another day again where we are here talking about everything and anything around property and welcome. So, as you all know, when you see the guy next door to me, you do know that he is the expert in terms of town planning. I know nothing about town planning. I didn't take the test. He did. So he is the clever one between the two of us. Dumisani, how's it going?
I'm good, Taurai, and yourself. You are making me to look like I'm the most intelligent guy in town.
it is a fact, my brother. It is a fact. And I think this is where we miss it a lot in terms of going into business. We go into business and we forget that we are not the clever people in the room. There are others who are clever. Like for instance, Dumisani, you can't do your own books, right? You need an accountant.
Yes.
Right. And for that reason, if you need an accountant, you need to go out and look for an accountant. And when you are talking to the accountant at that time in point, he is the clever one and you're not. You need to bow down and get direction from what he's saying.
Exactly.
100%. So I'm a great advocate of never to work in your business alone. You need a team behind you. And Dumisani, he is part of my team, and I work very closely with him. Anything and everything that is town planning related, I can't do it. I need someone like Dumisani. So find your Dumisani. And if you don't know how to find a Dumisani, well, Dumisani is here. You can jump on and you can request for his services. In the link below will be how you can request for his details. But we don't do this. This is not about to be saying, hey, you need to go and work with Dumisani. It's not about it. It's about educating you and I. And I've been learning from Dumisani whilst I've been having these conversations with him. And I'm sure you've been. If you've been and you've gotten through a couple of things and you don't want to miss out any episode, I suggest you hit the subscription button below and also put in a notification so that when we are live like this, you will know. Dumisani, today we want to talk about that other topic that a lot of people don't know how to do it, but we actually go in and just do it. And that is the topic of subdivision. I've seen people who have bought in their own land and they subdivide themselves. And when things go wrong, that's when we actually realize that, oops, it was never subdivided. What is subdivision?
Okay, so there's two forms of subdivision that we do.
Right.
One is for a farm or an agricultural holding. Then one is for a normal stand. We'll just use for consistency, we'll use the word stand because when you use the word stand, it represents an ERF, in an approved township. So subdivision is basically just saying cutting a property, whether a farm or a stand or an agricultural holding, into two or more smaller portions or smaller properties.
Right.
That's basically the simplest definition that you can give for one to always remember. Just to cut one big property into two or more smaller portions of that property. Yes.
So what are examples of it? If I stay in a complex and I own my own land, is this part of subdivision?
Okay, in a complex, it might not be. Okay. One of the things, some at times it might, and I'll start with the might. It might in terms of you have, let's say, 2,000 square meter stand, and you want to subdivide it into 4 portions of 500 square each. Then after that, you decide, you know what, for safety and security measures, we'll want to build a wall and have one access and one, in and out entry, then that will normally establish a Section 21 company, which people normally know it as sectional title, because there's different forms of sectional title. It can be on a flat, it can be on a block of flat, or it can be on a normal just freehold stance. So that will result in each and every stand you having full ownership of the stand, but within a sectional title, because you wanted to create an access point that is common for everyone, and also have maybe a security company that will patrol and take all the security measures for your properties. Okay. The other one might be that you are in that complex, but you only own a unit, or they say you own the land, but on the title deed it's not. You find that you only own the land, so that will be a sectional title. It will not be subdivided. So the property will still be big one property, but people allocated units or houses within that complex. Yes.
Awesome stuff. Yesterday, I was out in the area of Ekurhuleni. And if you don't know where Ekurhuleni is, it's actually one of the, we can call it a town, right? It's a council within the Johannesburg East. And one of my brothers, what he has basically done is he bought a house, an old house in the area of Edenville. So Edenville is under Ekurhuleni. And the reason why we're talking about these places is that so that you can follow who is responsible for what. So Edenville doesn't have a council of its own office. So it falls under Ekurhuleni. So you, whatever area that you fall into, there is different town councils where you are going to follow in, and the number of suburbs will sit in there. Just like Edenville. So Edenville, one of my brothers, he bought in a stand of around about 2000, 2005, if I remember very well, Dumisani. And what I understood, what happened here is that it's a corner plot, right? In an existing neighborhood, Edenville, it's a very old neighborhood. And what he went on to do was, he was wanting to build either some form of a development. And when he went to council, he actually understood that from Ekurhuleni, they recommended him to do a subdivision rather than a rezoning. And the subdivision is basically where they say to him, on his piece of land of 2,500, he can actually get at least five pieces of stand. And on that pieces of stand, they were then allocated anything around about between 400 to 500. Obviously, he needed to leave some space for cars to park and for creating a road. But nonetheless, he got 5 stands that he got out of it. And when I was talking to him, he says, no, these are all full sectional title. And I said to myself, let me go and ask Dumisani, what does that mean to say full sectional title? That's question number 1. And then number 2, what then happened is he literally actually bought this piece of land for R1 million, Dumisani. And I think this is where I want us to kind of like highlight how a person like me can make money by utilizing your skill, and where your skill is very important. By buying this one property, he bought it for R1 million, but he went on to build a house, 5 of them, at round about 1.5, 1.8, and he's selling those houses at 2.3 million each. So if you do the maths there, you are able to see that this guy is potentially doubling his money. But what did he do? Everything hinges around subdividing. And I want us to talk about this subdivision because I think there is hidden money into this. So if we were to go back to my first question, Dumisani, which is, when we're talking subdivision, is the name also full title? Is it also is it an interchanging of names? Does it mean the same thing?
Okay, so you can have a sectional title that is full or not full owned of a stand, okay? Right. So in his case, you can have a full title of stands that are within a complex. A simpler example that I like to give most of the time, it's when you look at your Stain City. You know, it's like a golf estate, but people there, they don't literally own their houses, but they own that piece of land where the house is built. So right. That stand, if it's stand number 5, number 10, that they own that stand. So sectional title doesn't restrict you to say you can only own your house, but not own the land. So there's different types of that scheme. It's like where you talk about a vehicle, okay? You have a normal vehicle that is yours, that would normally be you and your family. It's a vehicle, but you still have a taxi, which is bigger, you see. So the difference there, it's just that one might be smaller, and also the rules might be, we prefer that everyone own the common property, but we might cut you just the garden for you to be able to enjoy yourself and have fun and all of those. However, in this day, most people prefer to be in sectionalized titles, but owning the entire land. So it will still be a sectional title, but they own the full land. The only thing that they will all maintain is the common property, where you have now the service roads, where you have a park, if there's a park within that complex. So everyone will contribute with a levy to maintaining and to keeping those to the standards that the complex would want them to be kept at.
100%. I think this carries us into good examples of what a subdivision can bring to you. But the question that I want to ask of you, which is I think a lot of our viewers are waiting for, so how do you do it?
Okay, so a subdivision, like I said when I gave the definition, you cut a piece of land that is bigger to become smaller portions. Then I'll go back to your brother's example where he bought the 2,500 squares. Then they said, okay, you can cut it to about 500 because the other you must leave for roads and services roads and maybe a park in there, or sometimes they might create a common swimming pool. So it has to have its own piece of land, okay? The advantages there are this. Remember, you have one piece of land that is serviced and you build maybe one house. You have the remaining of the land unutilized in terms of having a house or anything, but you're using it for a garden. You maintain it at a higher cost because the garden now it's bigger. You have to water it, or if you pave it, then it becomes high expense in terms of maintenance. However, when you cut now that piece of land and you have it into smaller pieces of land, what adds value is that immediately when the subdivision has finalized, so maybe let's just give the process of the subdivision so that it will answer this. The process would be you appoint a town planner, then they would go to council or look at town council policies and say, the minimum subdivided land in that area you are in, it's this. In terms of your brother, the minimum size maybe that he could have went for would have been the 500 that they recommended. So they would not approve anything less than 500 square meter, the piece of a land that would be subdivided from the 2,500 squares.
Right.
Then you prepare an application, you submit it to council. So your application would need your power of attorney, your company resolution if it's under a company, a title deed. Then we prepare what we call a subdivision diagram. So a subdivision diagram will show how the land will be after it's subdivided, with now having new stand numbers, if I can say. If it's stand number 5, it will say portion 1 of stand number 5, portion 2 of stand number 5, portion 3, and so on and so forth. Then the application gets circulated to different departments, it gets approved. After it's approved, you bring in now a second phase where it's what we call a land surveyor. So the land surveyor is now to put in the pegs, the actual pegs on the land to say, this is where your boundary starts, this is where it ends on portion 1 of ERF number 5. Then after that, he takes the very diagram that I would have had approved, he registered it with an office called the Surveyor General now to ensure that those stand numbers are secured. They are for that particular property. They cannot be used anywhere else. They are but for that particular property that was subdivided. Then it comes back to us as the town planners. We do what we call a documentation to have the properties registered on title, which in the past we used to call them Regulation 38. So that in a simpler term, it's where now your property now has value, because it says each and every portion will have now its own connection point of water, sewer, and electricity. Because a land that doesn't have services, it doesn't carry much value as in the same way that a land that has services has. So if the land that didn't have services was 5 rand, once you install the services, then your piece of land automatically will have a higher value. It might be 7.50 rand or it might be 9 rands. When you put a house, it even goes even more because now it carries more value because people just walk in with their furniture. They don't have to go through the process of submitting building plans, construction, and all of that process. Therefore, once the subdivision is done, the services are connected. The value of the land will automatically go higher. You know, it will increase. Then that's when your land has value. Yes.
Dumisani, that process there that we've just spoken about, and it does sound like it is so easy to do. You just go to the council, put in your application, and it's done. But it also sounds like there's lots of work that needs to happen in the background. And I'm glad that I've got someone like you who knows how to do all of these things, and I don't need to physically do it myself. The question that I want to ask is, how long does this normally take? And in comparison to maybe rezoning and you know, which option is better here in terms of, you know, when you're wanting to do certain projects, or does it vary from project to project?
Okay. Yes, it will vary from project to project, and it will vary also in terms of you as the client, the owner, or the developer, in terms of what do you want to get out, because a subdivision on the 2,500 squares of your brother ended up resulting into 4 portions, okay, where he was able to build 1 unit on each and every step. However, if maybe he would have went for a rezoning, he might have got more units, because now on the rezoning, he was going to have a sectional title that says everyone owned their house, but not the land. The land is owned by all of us. Maybe he might have had 8 units, you see, because then the difference here is what do you want to get out as a developer? So if you are looking at numbers, rezoning would increase the density. But if you are looking maybe not big numbers, you are looking at moderate numbers, a subdivision would be a better option. And the other thing that most developers would normally try to move away from it. With a subdivision, your bulk contributions that you pay after the application are much lesser than on a rezoning, because the rezoning also takes that piece of land of 2,000 squares. It normally doubles it, or even sometimes it makes it 3 times the value of what it used to be in the past before it was rezoned. Then it means your bulk contribution also would be a bit higher than on a subdivision. So it will differ in terms of what do you want to get out, and are you looking at volumes, or are you just looking at creating a normal development where people will have their homes but secured in a certain complex, and also still owning a full land from boundary to boundary that they have built their house on.
Yeah, but Dumisani, what you've just said to me here, it sounds like between me and you, as if I look at myself as a developer, I now need to have a working relationship. So it's not just about taking the paperwork and we throw it over the fence to the council and then they say, yeah, there you are, your subdivision. It's actually about getting to going deep into the detail of the project, and we work numbers with options, right? To say, if we're to do a subdivision, this is what it's going to mean. If we're to do a rezoning, this is what it's going to mean. If we're going to do so, and then around all of those options, we then look at time, expense, costs, resources, and all of those things, and we say, okay, we think out of all of these, this option here is the better option. And out of it, you as a town planner has such a pivotal role to play in, because you are coming in with all this information, presenting it to the team. And by the way, this is not just me and you talking, but also we need to maybe have our builder there. Maybe we also need to have maybe our lawyers there as well. And all of us, we are agreeing on what is the best solution on here. And out of it, we then choose the best option. Maybe it might not be the most profitable one, but it might be the easier option to get in and out of the deal if you are one of those guys that buy and sell. And if you're a long-term guy, it might be your option could be better because it's less expensive, or you're taking in the more expensive route, but because you're taking it on a longer term, you are going to reap the rewards. There's a higher returns on actually waiting to do those processes. That's what I'm hearing from you here. But there's one question that you didn't answer, Dumisani. Timelines. How long does it normally take?
Okay, a subdivision it will have 3 phases.
Right.
Phase 1 will be the preparation and submission, circulation to different departments. Then it gets approved. Then we have what we call a consent approval. Right. You take that approval of a consent, then you hand it over to the land surveyor. That's phase number 2. The land surveyor comes, do the pegging, takes the diagrams, register them at the Chief Surveyor General's office in Pretoria. It comes back to the town planners again. We do the term that I said, Regulation 38, but now it has changed because it depends on the new legislation. So one municipality will have a different term. In Joburg, they might say 35, section 35.4. In Ekurhuleni, it might be section 31.2, but it just says that you are now applying for the land to be serviced so that by the time it's transferred, it's serviced. So that's right. Phase number 3. So phase 1 can take anything between 3 to 6 months, finalized. Phase 2, which is the land surveyor, can take 4 to 6 weeks. Phase 3 can take another 2 to 4 months, depending also in terms of the backlog with council, from one council to another. Especially when you talk about Ekurhuleni, City of Joburg, and City of Tshwane. Those are your Gauteng economic hubs, if we can put that term. That's where a lot of development is taking place. So there's several number of projects and applications that get submitted. In a safer way or in an easier way, I normally say to a developer, when you start this process, just give yourself 12 months, but it might even be lesser, you see, but give yourself 12 months for a worst case scenario. In most instances, it's less than that time.
Right. So 6 months to 12 months is a good time frame there to peg it. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right, and that was Dumisani giving us a full explanation of how does it actually work to do a subdivision. And if you didn't know what subdivision is all about, I gave you an example. We were talking about an example here of one of my brothers who has done it successfully, and he's made some good money out of it. But it has taken him a bit of time to finish it off. Everything that is good results takes a little bit of time, but don't go and do this on your own. Work with the likes of people like Dumisani, who knows the ins and the outs, who are qualified to do it. That way they'll ensure that you're going to make the good money that you want to be making. My name is TJ. It's been great hanging out with you. Dumisani, you can sign us out.
Thank you. Keep well, and we hope to hear your comments. Your comments are welcome. Your questions are welcome. We'll try and answer them in the shortest way possible, but enjoy the rest of the week. Have a lovely week. Thank you.
Cheers. We'll check you out on the next videos.